I remember back in the fall of 2007 when I was in my first semester at the University of Toledo. I had come down to the last day of the semester, and a big decision needed to be made. Was I going to continue studying pharmacy at this university, or was I going to go somewhere else, feeling that God had put a call in my life to go in a different direction? I was caught in the middle. My friends were in the room of the 13th floor of this Parks Tower, which is the residence hall that I lived in. And we were playing Guitar Hero as usual and just chilling out. And they were all celebrating the end of the semester for them. And here I was full of stress and tension about whether I would be continuing into another semester there. And in that moment, I felt like God was prompting me to listen, to be quiet, to get alone with Him, to be in prayer. I could recall one other time that this had happened. It was just that previous summer. I was on a youth trip down to Orlando, Florida, and there for a week-long opportunity to worship God and to be together. I came down to the last day, and all week long I had been praying for the Lord to make it more clear to me what it was that He wanted me to do with my life. I had the Career Connections class when I was in high school, and it said, be a pharmacist. And of course, pharmacy is a great career because you're going to make a lot of money, and it was a growing field at the time, but I had no certainty that this was what God wanted me to do. And so while I was at this conference on the last day, there was this missions rally. And all these missionaries were carrying these big flags, walking around below, and they were holding these flags of the countries that they represented. We were singing worship songs and singing to the God who wants to reach all the nations. And I felt this still small voice just speak to me and say, sit down and just listen to me. And so I did that. It wasn't a subtle thing. I felt quite compelled that this is what He wanted me to do. So I just sat down while everybody else was singing and standing, and I just listened to the Lord. And I'll have to say, in that moment, He didn't tell me what I was supposed to do. But one thing I knew for sure was that He was speaking His greatness over my life. He was telling me how wonderful He was and how great of a God He is to be trusted. And it proved to me in that moment that even more than the decision that I needed to make, I had a God who I could trust. And so I had this feeling as I went off to the University of Toledo that semester that God was going to do something else. Just wasn't quite sure what it was. And throughout that whole semester, God used different people. He used the church to speak into my giftings and to show what it was I might be used to do in ministry. I found myself leading a guy's Bible study on our hall. And all these things where I wanted to be far more involved in the work of the church than in the work of doing my school books. So the Lord kind of made it clear through all these things and these books I was reading that I needed to leave after that first semester. But that still wasn't an easy decision to make. And so going back, taking you to the 13th floor of the Parks Tower, there I was and all these guys playing Guitar Hero in my room, and I said, you all need to leave. I need to be alone with my Father, and I need to pray. Most of them weren't believers. They didn't understand. But I told them to go, and there I was simply listening again for the Lord to speak. And in that moment, something that had never happened the entire semester, our landline phone that was over by the window started ringing. Back in a time where you thought you might still need one of those. And so strangely enough, I went over there to pick it up, and I said hello, and nobody was on the line. But what I noticed when I was over there looking out through this big picture window on the 13th floor was this beautiful sunset. And it was another one of those moments where God was again speaking to me saying, you can trust me. You can know that the path I'm leading you forward in is one where I will be directing your steps and I will be calling you forward. So you can trust me. More than some plan that you're uncertain about, you can trust the God who stands above the plan. And so I took that as my confirmation. It was the next morning that I went down to admissions and told them that I was not going to be back the next semester. I went home and the Lord led me forward from there. And I just see His faithfulness and His goodness through all that. It says in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 that we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which He prepared beforehand for us to walk in them. God has so many good things in store for us, and He uses our giftings and our passions to fall in line with the good things He has for us. And so I see that being true for me, and I know that can be true for you as well. I'm thankful for the Lord today, just for His guidance and for the path He's led me down in His faithfulness.